morning again. Bear with me. Gotta get my stuff settled here. And I hope that it works like technology. What's up? All right, and I will, as I've done many times or previous times, I'll be using this quite a bit, so just I'm not a professional pastor, so I lean heavy on my notes and on my own written text that I've got here, so I'll be using a lot. But and I always have to give these like precursors for this. For those of you that don't already know it, if you're not familiar, being up here for me is far from comfortable. It's not my place that I long to be. Just willing to serve, I guess, but definitely not comfortable. It's always been an uneasy thing for me. So when Pastor and I talked, I don't know if I can adjust this. I'm getting a lot of feedback on these at least. Are you guys?
Can you put it up closer to your mouth?
Up here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That sounds better on mine, yeah. Thank you, Lottie.
Yeah.
All right. So when Pastor and I talked over the potential for covering for a Sunday, he mentioned my recent health event being something that might provide a component to testify or to share over. So my desire here is just to stay faithful to testifying a little bit about the Lord's work, how he works, and also faithful to an initiative that Nate and I have to try and see that he takes some time off, and he's very committed, very devoted. He pours himself into the church body. He, Leanne, Derek, they all do. So we want to see them take some time off. And this is an instance where we're trying to encourage that, so we're thankful he's able to. So, you have me today, and one of my hesitancies to step into it was that this seems inadequate in a sense of capturing the true magnitude of what God can and will bring to light through all of this that's going on. Just this one circumstance, he's going to do a lot through it. I don't doubt that. So nonetheless, just know that to be true. I don't claim this to be an adequate representation or all-encompassing representation of that. So, and I'll start by kind of asking this question, and it's the title of the message. I guess it's the title, and it's not really a great title, but it is a question for you all to think over, to ponder. And then at the end, I'm going to draw some things out that hopefully provoke general thoughts. Maybe tie it all together. That's the hope, at least. So the title is, Why Are You Here? Or Why Are You Still Here? So not necessarily like right here. Like, why are you still sitting in this church pew or living in, it might have something to do with like, why are you still living in this community? Why are you still whatever? But just see whatever God draws out in your heart in this. So my story, that's a springboard for this, I guess. For those of you who were on the text thread, got text messages a little less than, or just I guess a little over a month ago in early June, then you're at least a little aware of it. Maybe you haven't heard all the circumstances, and I won't share all of them today. There's no way I could tell it all. It'd take way too long, so I'm not intending to do that, just giving a brief overview for a background. So if you know me, you know that I love to run. I have loved to run for decades. It's been a big part of my life, big part of our family. My wife has always enjoyed to run. Our kids are starting to run a little bit or have ran. I've always pushed the kids from Maggie when she was itty-bitty in a single stroller to Maggie and Sammy in a double, to Sammy in a single, to Noah in a single, like pushed them all. Ran races. If you guys have been a part of our life, you've seen that, you've known that. So this Tuesday morning, I wake up, it's just an average morning, nothing different. I go out on a run, and I just happened to decide to stay close to home because Nikki was in town walking with one friend or a group of friends, and I didn't have to stay close to home, but I wanted to because I just felt like it was right that day. I was going to check in on the kids, and usually I'll go out in the country, or I'll run into town, or I'll put some distance between me and the house. So I stayed in Hickory Hills where we live, and I was doing some intervals, which is just running kind of fast, kind of hard for a little bit, taking a break. And I was only on my third interval, was less than 2 miles into my run, And I remember thinking, I was running on the street that goes behind her house, then wraps around to the front. And I thought, I've already met my mark, but I'm gonna keep going. It's a mental game. I'm gonna push. I'm gonna challenge myself. I'm gonna keep that pace till I get to the front door. I'll check on the kids. I'll let them know what I'm doing. I'll go back out. So that's the last thing I remember until probably at the very least 30, if not 45 minutes or more of my life went by until I woke up in the emergency room and had really no clue what happened. Other than what I can explain is I didn't witness anything going on around me. I just experienced something that felt like a simulation. It was very, very bizarre. Like I was literally fighting for my life. And EMS can back that up. My wife can back that up. Like my actions, the way that I was behaving, I wasn't communicating, but it was like I was literally fighting to survive. And I felt that, and I can remember that in my mind. Things of just the thought of you got to give it all you got. It's your last chance. Catch your breath, go at it. And I would fight, and I was fighting people. I didn't know I was fighting people, but very, very bizarre. Scary for me to think back on and just not have that recollection. Scary for my wife. She was present. She came up. So there's like a timestamp on it, so to speak. We checked the ring camera of our neighbor in our backyard, and I ran by full stride, and 9-10 minutes later, our further down the street neighbor walks by that same ring camera, and he found me in the street about 10 feet out of that camera view. So I'm full stride, and 10 feet later, I'm on the ground. And I'm there for 9 to 10 minutes or whatever until he comes on the scene and calls EMS, and then gets the neighbors involved, and then Nikki shows up before ambulance gets there too. So she experienced it. A lot of fear for her. Definitely scary for me. And like I said, the first thing I remember is waking up in the ER, and the CT scan had already been done, and there's people in the room. I think my dad, my father-in-law, pastor was there. So time for people to respond and get there, and I'd been out. And there was even a stretch where I thought like I was fighting, and it was just like lights out. Game over, you lost, you're done, like that. So when I woke up, the first thing I remember saying, I don't know if this is the case, but I remember saying, thank God I am alive. I didn't expect to be alive. So bizarre, like I said, very crazy. And Nikki is in the spot of like, I saw it, don't ever run again. Why would you ever run again? We don't want to experience that. I don't know if it's hard to say. We spent 2.5 days in the hospital, multiple studies and tests, all inconclusive. They have no clue what happened. There's assumptions, and they implanted a loop recorder, which is like a under the skin heart monitor that can last for, I don't know, a couple, 2 or 3 years by the battery life, but they're basically just tracking it to see, does it happen again? If it happens again, we know what happened. It's not like a life-saving device. It's just a tracker. So and I've got a lot of follow-up appointments with people, but inconclusive. We don't know. And it's just an odd place to be. But many things, just praise the good Lord, is by his grace that I'm still here. There's no doubt about that. And you might say, well, what about his grace why did you fall? Why did you go down? Why did you collapse? Like, what about his grace protecting you from that? We don't know everything. We don't have all the answers. That's part of what we'll talk about in this message today. You don't always have the answers, but he's teaching me, and he'll continue to teach me. And I'd still see it as his grace. He was with me. He didn't leave me when I was there. That's for sure. He was present, and is by his grace that the neighbor chose to go that direction versus the opposite direction he typically goes. He would have never come across me. Nikki would have been the first to respond, coming down that backside, which she typically doesn't do. She chose a different route. And then I could have been in the country. I could have been in the highway. I could have been out in the middle of winter. I run in all conditions. Could have been 30 below. It's the grace of God protecting from all of those things. And then what he's going to do from it, who knows? Only the future will tell, for me at least, and maybe for some people around me. So that's just some background. I also found that I have a wife that is very supportive and loving. I've got a Proverbs 31 woman, super blessed. And kids that are stronger than I ever expected. Maggie stood up as she's the oldest, so she had to be responsible, but she was strong. Sammy and Noah, troopers, didn't get discouraged, hung in there with confidence and faith. Just so blessed, so blessed. So, grace of God. I want to make sure that's clear. But some challenges come from it. So some learning comes from it. And what do we do with that? That's what I want to talk about today. And there's tons of passages we could turn to draw ideas or thoughts. I won't even go through all the things that cross my mind. I'll just share the ones that are part of this message. And they're ones that are always in front of me. But they happen to be in front of me again, like emphasized during this past few weeks. So, and if I can also share, obviously you'll hear a lot of I in this message because I'm talking about the situation and the circumstance and relating it to my life, but I want you guys to plug in your name, plug in your circumstance, your situation, where you're at in life, what's going on in your life, plug that in. So disregard the fact that I'm sharing my personal story, put in yours. So, but I do want to be vulnerable and transparent. I feel like that's important, and it is, and it's important in my life for sure. So 2 goals that God laid on my heart in 2026, spiritual development goals. And it's been a while since I've ever even ascribed to spiritual development goals. It's been probably a few years. But He just laid them on my heart for whatever reason. He knows what He's doing. And I don't have any doubt that He's working and will work on those goals. But I also have no doubt that I'm going to be twice my age at 90, and they're still going to be on the top of the list. I'm still going to need development in these things because I just know. I'm like, are you ever going to finish this work, God? Not really sure. So number 1 is to retrain my brain, to think positively, assume good intent, to take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. So Philippians 4:8 is the crux for this goal. It's where he talks about, think about whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable. If it's excellent and praiseworthy, think on these things. So I have to retrain my brain to think that way. It doesn't come natural. I got to look at things the right way. And you think that's challenged in an event like this? That's certainly strained. Can I think positively? It's God's stretching that. He's testing that or trying that. And then number 2 is to war against the fear of man and the approval of man. That's a definite struggle. And I'm not asking for victory in this, and this might sound like a man that has little faith, and that could very well be. I've asked for victory for years, and it's not come. So I'm just being honest. I'm asking God, my cry for Him is for His grace to keep showing up for me, to war against it on a daily basis, because it is a daily war. And I know that that's going to be the case, and I need His grace. And I want His strength to be made perfect in my weakness. And sometimes I have to stay within that weakness for His strength to be made perfect. And praise His name, He shows it all the time. He does it all the time. He shows up. I mean, this is evidence of it. For me to be up here anytime and to be speaking is God's strength in my weakness. This is a true effort and step of me warring against it, battling against it, the fear of man, the approval of man. Because I know what's going to come into my mind. It's going to flood my mind after this is over, tonight, in the middle of the night, tomorrow morning. It's going to be a war zone. Like I'm walking into a war zone. I'm welcoming it. Not welcoming it happily, but I'm just like, I know that's a part, but I'm going to continue to war against this because my family needs it. I know it's no discredit to anybody in my family. It comes in the family lines. It's an inherited thing. I think my parents would come up here and say the same thing, that they've warred against the fear of man and the approval of man. And it's a part of our bloodline. And I know my kids are going to wrestle against it, so I want to keep on fighting that fight. And honestly, so this may sound really weird and it's not in my notes, but like I wanted to wear, the day that I announced after I came out of the hospital, I wore the Jesus One hoodie, and my family can attest to this. I was like, no, don't wear it. I wanted to wear it, and I'm like, don't wear it today. No, people will be offended. And so I dressed like this. I went out the door and went down the street, made it to the highway, and I'm like, dude, Come on. Like, what? Why are you worried about it? Like, it's this is part of the message. Like, you're really still under the control of man. You're allowing it to influence you. So, this is the first illustration. I got it. I went back home. I was already running later than I wanted to. But I went back home. The kids, they can attest. Sammy's like, or somebody said, did you forget something? No, I think did. And I was like, yeah, man, I thought about wearing this. And, but I didn't know for sure if I should. So I was like, I'm grabbing it. And, I don't know for sure if I'll wear it or not still. I'm like, I'm going to church with it. And so it's just, thank you for the encouragement. We got a war against this stuff. And these things don't come easy. Oftentimes comes through difficulty and trial and struggle where we get some victory. So, all right. So Romans chapter 12. I'll have you guys turn there. Romans chapter 12. Very well-known verses. Like I said, they're always in front of me. And they're probably always frequently in front of you. Especially verse 1 and 2. And that's a crux for sure in this. Verses 1 and 2. You might question, why do you include verse 3? I'll explain. But hopefully I've got it written, typed up on here, and I'm just going to be reading it off. So it says, in this version, it says, therefore, brothers and sisters, in view of the mercies of God, I urge you to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true worship. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. For by the grace given to me, I tell everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he should think. Instead, think sensibly, as God has distributed a measure of faith to each one. So that's verses 1 through 3. So, obviously in verse 1, your body's a living sacrifice. And that's for sure something I have to surrender to here a little bit differently. Body is a living sacrifice. It can go down at any moment. Your physical body can go down at any moment. You don't know what's coming. And then the things about you are a living sacrifice. Running is certainly threatened in my life. Is that a living am I willing to be a living sacrifice with that? To give it up? To surrender at least control over it? But then in verse 3, you might say, why include verse 3? I just want to challenge us to think through it this way. I know that it's a propelling on to the next verses of what kind of faith people had, what gifts they were given, and all of that, part of the body. But also, wonder if that doesn't challenge us to renew our mind, like verse 2 says, and that very first renewal of our mind being what it says in verse 3, don't think too high of yourself. Maybe we need to renew our mind in our pride. That's the first place. Check your pride. You might need to touch base with that and see where it's at. And I might say, man, my pride's it's about hip height. And God's like, raise that bar a little bit. You got a little bit more pride than you like to admit. One thing, pride. So it is to die within the living sacrifice. Pride is to die within that living sacrifice. It's to go to the ground. And the world's going to tell us, it's going to tell you, be proud. Make a name for yourself. You got a reason to be proud. You put in the work. Nobody else is going to pat you on the back. And God's word, just like he is so countercultural, flips the script. He's like, bury the pride. Let it die. Let the pride die. And guess what grows up? Humility grows up in its place. And so he's like, do it opposite. You're not to have pride, but you'll be humble. And that's what I'm looking for. I want you to be humble. When you're humble, you're usable. Then that's when I can put you to work. That's when I can mold and shape you, So that is what we're looking for. It's going to subsequently grow. But we can think. So this isn't exactly how my brain went. But if I ponder it, and as I write this up, these are thoughts that come to mind. And I feel like you guys can probably relate in the season that you're in. So I can be like, but God, really? This is where I'm going to be? The medical expense, the knock to my reputation. So back up to that approval of man. I can't control what people think of me. They're going to say, I might want to control it, but they're going to be like, if somebody hears the story, like, well, Andy's not as healthy as we thought. Like, I knew that running was bad for you. It was going to kill him one day. I told him it would. Like, I can't control that. So now I've just got a knock to my reputation, a knock to my pride. So this is where I'm going to be. The fear that I carry now, the fear that my family has. I've got unanswered questions. I mean, I really can't go on a run anymore without my family tracking me. I'm dead serious. They got me on Life 360. They know if I pause for more than 3 seconds, I'm getting a text message. It's the truth. It's okay. That's good. They love me. And seriously, on my end, when I'm out on a run, and you might be like, what the heck are you going on a run for? Or you're a fool. I don't want to be controlled by fear either. Live a life controlled by fear. But when I go out, it's constantly on my mind. It's every step. It's literally every step. I'm not kidding. Like, everything. I'm feeling it. I'm like, why are you so tired? Better slow down. That step didn't feel right. What if the next step you go down? What if that car that just passed is the one that's going to see you go down and they got to respond? What if that pregnant lady walking in the neighborhood is the one that's going to witness you go to the ground and she's going to have to respond? Like, it's just literally always there. It plagues my mind. So the runs just aren't the same. It's constantly with me. And I look at things with that perspective. Same idea. What if I'm up here and carrying this message and I drop? Like, there's no way to say that running is what caused it. Nobody knows what caused it. So the question is there for everything. It transcends to all of my life. Like, what if I'm in a meeting and I go down? What if I'm out on vacation in the lake and I go down? Like, it's constantly there. So running itself has been threatened, but the rest has too, in a sense. So I can just sit back and be like, this is where I'm going to find myself? And all this, literally, I feel like I can argue this. So this is the way our natural brain can work. I'll say all of this comes after I have sacrificed in my life. I have, God. I've been a living sacrifice. I walked away from much, left a lot on the table. I walked away from a job where there was a lot of potential. I felt like a bunch of people cared for me, loved me. I turned from that and I turned away, really. Now I'm seeing from being probably another statistic, another casualty or a victim of what the world tells you to do, to pursue those things with all that you got. Pursue success, meaning, purpose. You're going to find it in your identity, in your work, in your career, and all of those things. I turned from that to surrender to a different plan, a calling that I sensed from God to be more present for my wife, my family, our extended family, the community. But that's a living sacrifice, isn't it, God? And this is where I'm going to find myself. How much more layers of my identity can be stripped away? Now you're taking this running too. Well, maybe all of them. Ask yourself how many layers of your identity can be stripped away. Maybe all of them. Until I fully understand, He is where I find my one and only identity. He is it. And then He asks, are you living? Andy, are you living? Are you alive? Well, it is a living sacrifice. I hate to tell you, it is a living sacrifice. So continue to surrender all things to my loving care. Think soberly about yourself, your faith that God has divvied out. And when we understand these things, it takes our eyes off of ourselves. We treasure Him, we treasure His gift, and we can't boast. And then it leads us to serve and be served with the right perspective in mind. So if you want to, flip to Philippians chapter 4. These are also well-known verses. Many of these verses you guys probably have memorized in Philippians chapter 4, but I want to transition over to that for just kind of a different fork in the road. And chapter 4, verse 13 is a very well-known, like a coffee cup, t-shirt, desk art, wall decor type of verse. Like, you know it. It was the second verse I ever memorized outside of John 3:16. Philippians 4:13 was the next. I remember it because I had this struggle in my life, this thing in my life that was a challenge. And my parents, I remember my mom and dad saying, memorize Philippians 4:13, quote it, recite it, pray it. And it was spot on. Like, I get it. It made a lot of sense in the moment, there's no doubt. And I do believe mentally it helped me. As I've learned all the context around it now, it carries a much different meaning later in my faith journey, so that I can do all things through Christ. That's the verse. So it has a different meaning when you look at the context, right? So let's go ahead and read starting verse 10. It says, I rejoiced in the Lord greatly, because once again you renewed your care for me. You were in fact concerned about me, but lacked the opportunity to show it. I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I find myself. I know how to make do with little, and I know how to make do with a lot. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being content. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need, I am able to do all things through him who strengthens me. So, in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, you're living sacrifice. In verse 3, we're not esteeming ourselves more highly than we ought. And in here in Philippians 4, we're content in everything. We're content in everything. Paul had need. He wasn't asking for help. They gave him help. He was thankful for it. He could have done without it. He'd have been all right without it. And recognizing how Paul uses the word learned 2 times in that short passage. He used the word learned to talk about contentment. That helps us understand it's a process. You don't just, God give me contentment, and then you got it. It's a process. It's also a type of a response we're called into. We need to learn to be content. You're called into doing that. We've got to learn it. Doesn't just come, doesn't just happen. But the awesome part of it, the ability to handle it correctly, is strengthened by Christ. It says it right in there. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He's the one that strengthens me to be content. He gives me the strength to be content in all circumstances and situations. So he had seasons of having a lot. He had seasons of having a little. He learned Christ could give him the strength to be content no matter the season he found himself in. So how do you learn? How do you learn? In life, how do you learn things like this? By experience. How do you experience it? By going through the season. You don't just get it without going through the season, right? That's the way you're going to learn it. That's where you're going to experience it. That's where you're going to experience God's provision and his presence and his ability to give you the strength. You can't just have that without going through the season. So we don't enjoy the season, maybe, but it's good for us. That's how we experience, that's how we learn. So maybe consider Philippians chapter 2, verse 3, and I'll just read this. So do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourselves. Everyone should look not to his own interests, but rather to the interests of others. So maybe, just maybe, a thought, things in my life, things in your life are occurring for and in the interest of others. Maybe it's not just about you. It certainly is about you. God's doing a work there too, but maybe it isn't just about you. We're not just here for ourselves. Maybe it's in the interest of others. And then some encouraging things to consider. There's plenty, again, verses that we could go to. This is what God brought in front of me, is this the reminder of Psalm chapter 46. It's a great chapter. I'm just going to read the first few verses, and then the last two, they're also well known. But in that chaos, there is a calmness that awaits us. In the chaos of your life, whatever it might be, or the scenario, the situation, there's a calmness that awaits us. It's there, it's ready. We just got to be still. All right? So verses 1 through 3, it says, God is our refuge and strength, a helper who is always found in times of trouble. Therefore we will not be afraid. Though the earth trembles and the mountains topple into the depths of the seas, though its water roars and foams and the mountains quake with its turmoil. Then jump into verse 10. Stop fighting. Version that you may have memorized, cease striving. Stop fighting and know that I am God. exalted among the nations, exalted on the earth. The Lord of armies is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. Praise the Lord. I think it is fair to say that most of us have this tendency, all right? The daily grind gets a bit too much, or the pressure builds up. We're overwhelmed, or maybe we're disappointed. Maybe it's completely different. We're disappointed, we're hurt, we're frustrated, and we think, I want relief. I want answers. You know what? I'm going to fight my way out of this. I can get myself out of this. Or I'm going to run. I'm going to turn tail and run. And pardon the pun for the running scenario, but that's what we feel like. And not all the time. I don't say this is all the time, but certainly many of the times God is calling us to stop fighting. Be still. And just trust that He is God, that He is with us, that He is our stronghold. He gives us that peace that surpasses all understanding. That's in the earlier verses in Philippians 4 that we didn't read. So as we realize we can trust His absolute sovereignty, accept that He does have good intertwined within the plans. Might not look good. He's got good intertwined within it. And then just accept and rest in the fact that He loves us. He wants what is good for us. When we do those things, our trust grows. Trust grows and the fighting stops. So it's similar to feed your faith and your doubts will starve to death. You know, when we believe, we trust Him, we have that faith, our trust grows, we see Him work, and then the fighting against His will stops. So our family loves sports. I think everybody that knows us knows that. We're fully on board with the fun, the joy, the competition, the team bond, the exercise, and the strength building, so many things that come from it. But we're also, as parents, mostly on board with and mostly interested in the opportunities that sports themselves provide to develop lifelong characteristics. It puts people, kids, in certain situations where you can coach and teach and lead to strong lifelong characteristics that can be such a tremendous foundation for literally every aspect of life. So we find it beneficial, but because we love sports, we also know about timeouts. So if any of y'all follow sports, certain sports, you got, I don't know how many don't have a timeout, but many of them carry a timeout. So, as a matter of fact, might feel like we may have missed the opportunity for an essential timeout or two in the last sectional run in the state tournament for our high school girls basketball team. But that's all right. You surrender to the person calling the timeouts when you're not the person calling them, right? You surrender to them. It's not up to you. So they're called in pivotal situations. Maybe you want to stop the clock. You got to stop momentum. You need to regroup. Things are there's a little bit of chaos. You need to regroup. Or your kids are anxious. Or you got to plan how to play. You got 5 seconds left, down by 1. Who's going to get the ball in their hands? How are you going to attack the basket? Got to plan how to play. Or you got to rest your players. The other team's got 8 kids that are great, and they're cycling them in and out. You got 5, they're exhausted. Rest your kids. Or calm in the noise of the crowd. You got an opposing crowd. You're on their court, and they're starting to build. They're coming back, or they're running ahead of you. You calm the crowd. You call a timeout. So sometimes God calls timeouts for us. He knows we need a change in heart posture. That's convicting, right? Maybe you look at things the wrong way. Your heart posture just isn't right about it. And He says, time out. I love you too much. You can't stay there. We got to do something about this. Or He says, change in direction. Time out. Time for rest. You need to take a break. You're getting exhausted. Or avoidance of danger. He knows the needs of His athletes, right? God knows the needs of His athletes, of His children. He also understands the opponent and his next move and his next play. He wants us to depend on Him. It's not our timeout. We don't know those things All right, like in Isaiah 55, 8-9, it says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God's ways and his thoughts are a lot higher than ours. We don't understand all things. And that's okay. He's God. We're not. We have to resist reducing God's ways to formulas we can understand. We're not going to fit it all into a formula we understand. His ways are beyond finding out. If we can't understand his purposes, we can still hold fast to what Scripture shows us about his faithfulness, his love, his presence, his power, and on and on. And we can also recall the times that he's been faithful, and these things have been true in our life. We talked about this a bit downstairs last week with the teens. I shared with them that I've got some stones in my office that I've had for years. That made it from the last office to this one. I can look at that stone and just like that, I'm reminded of God's faithfulness in that exact scenario. That's the purpose I have it. 7 years ago. It's crazy. It brings back all those memories. He's faithful. He's been faithful time and time again in your life and in the lives around you. We can talk to people too and be reminded of his faithfulness. And that'll help us as well. So I want to try and, this is my hope with this, is just to kind of lighten the mood a bit with it. I don't know if it's going to work. We've done it up here before. I probably forgot how to do it. And I didn't test it beforehand, so if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I wasn't for sure if I was going to do it anyway, but we're going to try it out. And we'll see. And there's some precursors I got to give to it as well. But maybe I should take a mic. In the back? Ah. Go blue. All right, is this on? Okay, so we'll see if this works. I got to plug it in, and then it'll come down to if I can change the function and then increase the volume so y'all can hear it. So hang on just a second. Who's got some good dad jokes out there? Tell a dad joke in the downtime. Okay, it looks like it's coming up, maybe. Because it depends on which we're going to watch a little TV. There it is. So now it comes down to the volume. All right, so also precursors here. Hopefully, I went back and forth about playing this. I got to keep the kids entertained, if nothing else. They're sitting up here for this whole thing. But hopefully nobody takes offense to this. It does. In our house, we're always like, our kids are watching something, and we hear it. You know, we're in the kitchen, they're in the living room, we hear it, we're like, wait a minute, did that just say, oh my God? Yeah, turn it off. And so we're always like that. We're hard on it. This may say that in this video, so if it offends you, I apologize. One thing that I do believe is that we've always learned that that's taking the Lord's name in vain. These people they're not trying to be offensive. They don't know any different, probably. And we don't want our kids saying it. We don't say it. But really, taking the Lord's name in vain is carrying his name in vain. It is bearing his name in vain. It is saying, I'm a believer. I follow Christ. I follow God. He's my number one. And then we don't live a life that attests to it. That's taking his name in vain. So hopefully this isn't offensive. I find some humor in it. Let's see if it works. Oh, it's on something about the volume. May not work. Okay, I think that might do it. Forgive me for the.
You know, scientifically, pandas are actually always tumbling.
Lunch is here.
Oh, Veronica, did you want a sandwich?
I know, I'm good.
Well, hey, we have an extra water. Here, catch.
It's okay, I'm chill.
Veronica, I could pull up a normal chair if you want.
I know, this is totally cool. I'm chill.
Are you sure? That chair looks super uncomfortable.
It's okay. I'm pretty low maintenance, so I don't really care about stuff like food or comfort or anything.
You don't care about anything.
No.
What about, like, family? Like, your family was just in town.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of at the airport and I bumped into them and then I drove into my house, but just because I didn't really have anything else to do.
What about your appearance? Those are nice bracelets. You must want it to look nice.
Oh, these? I kind of found them at a vintage store that's known for having rats, and I just put them on because I was bored.
What about your dog? You had this picture taken.
I mean, honestly, we were both just kind of at the Sears photo studio at the same time, and we were like, well, I don't have anything else to do.
So your dog just happened to be at a Sears photo studio by herself. You're both wearing t-shirts of the photo that you're in.
Oh, weird.
Also, I found this article about you saving a historic tree. You must care about the environment.
I mean, saving that tree was kind of an accident. I just sort of tripped and was suddenly doing a massive widespread sit-in.
Okay, sit-ins aren't an accident. It's like a deliberate political action.
You care about something. Everybody cares about something.
I really don't. I need not a thing in this world. I am low maintenance, and I live in a void free of hang-ups, intention, or anything dear.
That sounds awful.
I don't mind.
Okay, well, how about this? You seem to care a lot about being low maintenance.
No, if I woke up tomorrow high maintenance, I wouldn't really care.
Oh my god, Veronica, you're melting!
See? You care so little about anything that you're vanishing before our eyes.
Oh, really? Huh, I didn't notice.
You had to have noticed your body is disappearing.
Oh, weird.
Wow, she's so chill, she's gone.
Where should we spread this?
Honestly, anywhere. It really doesn't matter to me.
Oh, God! I got a little F.
This would literally only happen to you.
All right. I'm going to turn this mic off. Yeah, hopefully you get a little humor out of that. Lightens the mood a bit. I found it hilarious. Watched it a few times. All right, so maybe people thought Paul was like this, like that lady, when he said he learned to be content. God isn't calling us to care about nothing. He is wanting us to depend on Him, trust Him, believe in His purpose, His faithfulness, His ability. Go on down the line. So, some questions, like I mentioned at the beginning, some questions to ask of yourself. Are you chasing after something? What is it? Why are you, remember, are you chasing after something? Is that really what you're supposed to be doing? Or are you running from or trying to get out from under something? Maybe you want control. You're fighting for power, for comfort, approval, your way, your will. Again, the title is, why are you here? Or why are you still here? In this spot, in this circumstance, in this trial, in this position, in this season, in this kind of need. And this is far from all-inclusive, but I can tell you some things we know to be the case no matter where we find ourselves. We're to be a farmer. Marcy gets this. We're to be tilling the ground, planting the seed, watering the soil for the benefit of others in God's kingdom and also my personal spiritual development into the likeness of Christ. Isn't that what it almost always comes back to? He is forming us into the image of Christ. That's what I'm here to do. And this may not be unanimously agreed upon, but I believe it's not my business if there's a harvest or not, or how much or how little the harvest appears to be. It's not in my hands. Like, God, how am I going to generate all that needs to happen out of this? How am I going to make it work? How am I going to, I don't want to miss anything. I need to put it all together and make sure it produces what it's supposed to produce. It's in His hands. I'm here doing what I'm called to do. And we may feel like it's painful to be transformed. It's too slow. Takes too long. The mere fact that we're being transformed should bring contentment. If God is willing to transform us, He loves us, He cares about us, He's chasing after us, pursuing us, building us up, that should bring contentment. Thank the Lord He's working in my life. He hasn't given up on me. So can we be a living sacrifice? Can we not esteem ourselves more highly than we ought in this season or situation? Can we learn to be content? And can we find that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us? And you may hear me say this on repeat. I'm sure I've said it before. I'm going to continue to say it because I think it's fantastic. And it's not original with me. I heard it, I wrote it on my whiteboard, and I reflect on it often. If you're chasing after dependence on God, weakness is an advantage. It's an advantage. If you want to depend on God, you're going to have to be weak. Otherwise, the person who thinks they're strong, looks like they're strong, has it all together, they're disadvantaged. They don't need God. And then they're doing it on their own. That's not where we want to be. If you want to depend on Him, we need to be weak. And so sometimes we're in those seasons of weakness and we depend on Him. And that's a great place to be. We might not welcome it, we might not like it, but it's a great place to be because it gets our eyes fixed back on Him and He's our ultimate source. Right? All right. So just some thoughts to consider. I thank you guys for your time, your attention, for the opportunity to be up here. It's a blessing. It's an honor. And yeah, that's all that I have. So if Nate, if you don't mind coming up and we'll do the parting song. And if you want to pray or have someone else pray for us, that would be awesome.
We stand and turn to page 332. 332. Without Him I could do nothing. Without Him I'd be surely fail. Without Him I would be drifting like a ship without a sail. not turn him away, oh Jesus, oh Jesus. Without him, how lost I would be. Without him, I would be dying. Without him, I'd be enslaved. Without him, life would be hopeless. But with Jesus, thank God, I'm saved. Jesus, oh Jesus, do you know him today? Do not turn him away, oh Jesus, oh Jesus. Without him, how lost I would be. Dear Lord, we're just thankful for this opportunity to come into your house, to worship you, to sing praises unto you. We're thankful, Lord, for Andy and his delivering of the message and sharing his story. Pray, Lord, that you would help us to depend on you more. We try to do a lot of things in our own strength. We're so proud, Lord. So proud. We always think we can depend on ourselves. We pray that you would help us to depend on you. And in whatever season we are in life, where we think we can handle it, or we're controlling something, or we can do it on our own, but instead we realize that without you, we can do nothing. Help us to lean on you. Help us to depend on you. We're so thankful, Lord, for your love. Help us to love you, to continue to serve, even in the midst of difficult circumstances, and realize that you do have a plan for our life. We need to be willing to listen and to follow your lead. Thank you, Lord. In your name I pray. Amen.